Hi, this is Geek and I'm Dan. Welcome back to the workshop. This is the 2025 State of the Workshop video. I've been doing these every year for a few years now. Basically, the idea is I just sort of do a bit of a meander around the workshop, thinking about the things I have done or changed over the last year, and a few musings on what might change or what projects I have in mind for the coming year. The traditional jumper is here, so let's get on with it. The big change from last year is that last year, at the very beginning of the video, I commented that I'd just gotten the robot cameraman back in action, tracking me, all the good stuff that I'd had it doing, having had it kind of not quite working for a while. I was quite happy about that. And then, I don't know, like a couple of months after that, I was shifting it around, trying to do stuff, and I tipped it over and bits broke. And rather than just reprinting the bits that broke, I decided, what the hell, I'm going to completely rebuild the whole thing. And so I've been doing that for a lot of the year. It's not quite done yet. We'll come back to that in a minute. But for now, you're on the static mobile phone camera because I'm out of time. I thought I might be able to get the robot up and running to do some of this. I'm close, but I feel like if I try and push any more, I'm going to run out of time. This is the last day of my holiday. So, workshop tour. First stop on the tour, the CNC machine. I will be honest, a lot of this year the CNC machine has been buried under a lot of mess. It still looks like it's buried under a lot of mess. This is actually a somewhat more controlled mess than it has been. I didn't get a lot of chance to use it, but I did use it right towards the end of the year to create a bunch of Christmas gifts. It was awesome to just dust it off, clear it off, and have it do its thing. So that was fantastic. I did a bunch of like contour map carvings and stuff like that. So this has remained a workhorse. It's good, but the new thing for this year is down here. It's my new 3D printer, the X1 Carbon from Bamboo Labs. I've had my Prusa Mark III for years and years. It's been a workhorse. It started to really mess me around last year. Had a lot of problems with the hot end, weird filament issues. I was getting very frustrated with it. I did repair it and it is kind of back in operation, but it still doesn't quite feel like as good as it was in the beginning. But amidst that frustration, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take the take the plunge, buy the printer that everyone's talking about, and it's fantastic. I put it out here. There's a little space for it with the AMS on top, and I've done a ton of printing with it this year. Lots of stuff on the new robot cameraman. It's been an awesome workhorse. I did have one problem. After, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months, the extruder motor gave up the ghost, but Bamboo Labs replaced it, or I say they sent me a replacement. I had to strip it down, put it back in. It's been fine since then. Hopefully that won't fail again. So yeah, this is cool. This whole open space, originally when I built this trolley, I had visions of building something that I would be able to wheel out as like a big cabinet. I may still do that, but that cabinet will now have to accommodate the printer. For now, it's kind of a bit of a mess of electronics, wiring, motors, blah, 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 stuff dumped in this side, the printer here. So yeah, that's that. Believe it or not, part of the reason I'm so late in this video is I have been tidying the workshop. It was an insane mess. It is now slightly better, but you probably wouldn't really know it from this corner of the room. Haven't gotten that far. I've got bits everywhere. This is some wood flooring from... we had a leak that destroyed the flooring and I ripped up the boards. I've replaced them with something else. Most of these are okay, some of them are not. I've been using them for other stuff. What have I done over this side? Not a huge amount up here. The laser continues to be a fantastic tool to just bring out for certain things. I did some etching on some wood recently. I've used it for cutting templates. I used it actually this year to cut some templates for plasma cutting. Just sort of one-use things where I wanted to kind of cut a specific circle or a specific square. That worked really well. That was a cool usage. Other than that, the resin printer remains largely unloved. Did I print anything with it this year? I think I have printed a few things with it this year. It's useful when you really do want that detail, but it's a little bit brittle for most usage. Other than that, it's kind of a mess. The biggest thing that's changed at this end of the workshop is down here. For a few years now, I had a cheap, fairly cheap SGS 50-litre compressor. It was very noisy, and from relatively early in its life, it started to develop a problem where it got up to pressure and then just immediately started to bleed pressure away back to its endpoint, because I guess the release pressure valve was never quite right. That problem just got worse and worse and worse. I tried to fix it. I tried to find spare parts for it. I couldn't find spare parts. There were all kind of weird imperial threads, and everything I could find was really metric. I ended up very frustrated. Even as early as a couple of weeks ago, I ended up placing an order for this bad boy. This is the Hyundai. You can't see it behind this, but it says super silent oil free. This thing is so quiet. It's amazing. I posted a video about it recently. I've repositioned my hose reel so that swings in and out, which is quite useful. So normally this, so this tucks away. This is a 100-litre compressor. That wasn't entirely intentional. When I was ordering, in my brain, I thought I have a big compressor, and I, for some reason, thought that was the 100-litre. It isn't. But anyway, this is amazing. Something for this year I'm very tempted to do is try and connect some permanent lines, possibly over the ceiling, so that I can have like clip-in points around some of the major tools for just, useful points. So I think if anyone has any advice on running airlines and things to consider and stuff I should think about, please put it in the comments, because it's really, like, I love the air tools I have. I have some nailers, I have a sander, I have a chamfering tool, I have the plasma cutter. Like, I have a bunch of things that are really useful, and I would like to make even more use of it now I have a compressor that is doing the business better. Moving on. I'm going to say this part of the workshop has been pretty stable for the last year or so. Got the big metal guillotine. This was useful quite recently, actually, as I made a quick aluminium bracket. Fantastic. I chopped through this 2.5mm aluminium plate. No problem. We have the wood lathe, which has not seen any real love. We've got my little trolley of chop saw and belt sander or whatever. I think last year I talked that I might do something about it. I haven't. I feel, again, like it's just good enough, but I'm often using the belt sander and it's really awkward in that place, but it's out of the way most of the time, which is what I want. Anyway, table saw. What did I use the table saw for much this year? Like, I cleared it off recently because it was covered in stuff. I feel like I did use it for something, but I am struggling. Oh, I made a bunch of giant lazy Susans in the middle of the year out of a bunch of plywood, so I needed to strip some plywood down. So I used the chop saw and the circular saw and the router and stuff. And again, I think I probably mostly used the chop saw as a place to do that work, but I'm pretty sure I did use it in places. We've got the big dust extractor at the back. I don't use this almost at all because it's awkward, and I don't really have the hose set up for it. Again, that's another, like, I keep thinking maybe one day I would plumb in more dedicated hoses for it so it's properly situated. I have kind of a weird hodgepodge of connected bits down here, but they always kind of fall apart, the connectors, in really annoying ways. Again, if anyone has any good sources for like the piping for that, let me know in the comments. And I think probably just in shot is the trusty bandsaw. Fantastic tool. I gave it a little bit of love this week, actually. I kind of did a bit of a rust treatment on the table and gave it a good old wax. So this is feeling a little bit more love. I probably need to clear it out. I still need to probably tune it better so the saw doesn't want to wander quite as much as it does. But I use it all the time for just like quick little cut things up in all sorts of material. Fantastic machine. And that's pretty much it. I say I don't know that there's been very many projects specific to this side, so let's carry on. The lathe. This is probably the source of the biggest amount of work projecty things this year. Weirdly enough, I reviewed last year's video and I was talking about my electronic lead screw, which at the time was this unit, and I was pretty happy with it this time last year. I had done some tests with it, it worked well, things seemed to be on plain sailing, and then I did more with it and I ran into all sorts of problems, and the more I tried to chase them, the worse it got. And one of the problems I really ran into is that I was really trying to make this thing work with an Arduino Nano. Because I was convinced it has the compute capacity needed, and it does. What it doesn't have is enough memory. So I was trying to make a somewhat useful user interface. I wanted it to know about specific threads, and the more I tried to sort of fight things and give it nice features, the closer to that memory limit I got, and the more flaky it became. And all sorts of other issues. I think last year I had the motor was mounted on this end via a coupler, which again was okay, but it wasn't reliable enough. I kind of had problems with it. In the end, I had spent a lot of time thinking I didn't want to adjust the base machine, which is kind of why I had coupled things that side. In the end, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to mount the motor right here off of the main gear chain. So I'll bring you in for a close-up here. So I basically cut a chunk out of the main cover to expose the gear chain in there, and I just have a one-to-one gearing straight onto the lead screw with the original gear which I just set up for the shaft of this motor. So that is a somewhat more stable and rigid mounting that I'm happier with at this end. Excuse all the wires running everywhere, but that's that. This is the new version of the electronic lead screw controller. So say this was the old version. This one is an ESP32 inside. Pretty much the same other software controls, whatever. We can select our thread types and whatnot. That has proven to have more capacity. I still need to run some of the details down. I had some issues. I still have some issues with the end stops occasionally firing unexpectedly, which I think is pull-up resistors, pull-down resistors, etc. But I shifted everything to this side. This works great. When I was trying to fix my compressor, I machined some custom parts. The couplers and the threading for that worked amazingly. I do need to spend some more time on it, to figure out why I occasionally get spoof reactions off the end stops. And I started playing with the fact that the ESP32 can connect to the Wi-Fi, which is sort of overkill for a lead screw controller. But given how limited this interface is, kind of intentionally, I quite like the idea of being able to maybe simply select things via a web interface. But you're constantly fighting that game of it's a very time critical process to run the lead screw, and you don't want it responding to browser requests to get in the way of that. So anyway, I need to spend some more time to refine this. I've been using it myself. I still have this idea that I would quite like to make them available somehow for sale, but I don't want to do that until I'm really confident that it is a robust implementation, and it's not quite there yet. But I got really distracted playing with the robot, which we'll come to at the end of this. Lathe continues to be an amazing tool. Did a bunch of things with it this year. Trying to think if there was any specific projects. Trying to fix the compressor was probably the most practical, useful thing, where I was struggling to get kind of the right parts. I was able to make a metric to imperial coupler, which I was very pleased with making, and that part worked great. It's just that it didn't solve the fundamental problem of the release valve. Did I do these this year? I think I possibly did these this year. This is my array of tools off the back. Let's have a look at. So with a quick change tool post, you end up with tools, and I decided I wanted a nice place to put them all. Most of them. Which is really nice. So I just have this ability. These are all just little brackets that magnet onto the back just to hold in place, so they kind of move around very easily to reconfigure. I designed this thing, which sits on here as a DTI holder for the quick change tool post, but it also goes onto the lathe bed so that you can do this kind of thing. At the moment I have a position to be able to put a grub screw to hold it in place, but you get the idea. That is a fun little setup. This has helped me keep this surface a little bit clearer of these tools, at least. I mean, flat surfaces in this room get covered in stuff very quickly because of me, but having them up this arrayed here, thumbs up. I think I really like this setup. I could possibly do with fitting one more in here. I can probably fit another one up here. But yeah, that was a cool addition, and I do make these models available on my website. Of course, that brings us to the mill. Fantastic workhorse piece of kit. I've used this a ton this year on the Robot Cameraman build. The Robot Cameraman has been kind of this fusion of 3D printed and machined aluminium. This has done all of the machining of aluminium, and actually that's something I did on the lathes. I made a bunch of pins that went inside of the planetary gearboxes. Made real use of the rotary table for the first time this year, doing that as well, trying to mill some steel plate I had into sort of a circle and drill a circular pattern of holes on it. That worked pretty well for the rotary base. So yes, try to keep it clean. It's often not very clean. It's doing all right at the moment. But yeah, this has been cool. I still wish that this thing automatically switched itself off rather than just immediately drain all the batteries. I should probably upgrade that at some point. This year might be the year that I go for making a powered feed, at least on the X. That is a project that I've had in mind for a long time. It feels like an obvious upgrade. But again, need the time to do it, and there are only so many projects you can do at once. But yeah, mill going strong. Oh, and I started to organise the bits for the mill in here. So I got heavily into Gridfinity this year, which is this whole thing of you have these base grids that are all exactly the same size that you fill the bottoms of your drawers with, and then you get a bunch of these different types of containers that fit onto those grids. So these are for obviously all the collets. I've got some drill bits, I've got my reamers, a bunch of end mill ones. I kind of want to fix this to be a little bit easier to parse what's in them. I have this collection of Allen keys, which always go missing, but this is quite a cool, just stacks up the very many you've got, so you can see how you end up with 1,000,000 5s and like no 3s. This is a work in progress, but it is better than it was, and I'm going to try and work that across to here as well. I've got sort of collet storage and some stuff for the needle files. This is a bit of a mess. It needs more organisation, but it's getting better. And the welding table remains much unchanged. Again, mostly it spends a lot of its life covered in the stuff. I have cleaned it up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I feel like I need to do more over here to do the storage of cutting discs and grinding discs in a more accessible way. The tricky part, I did think, I could just put up like a wall that I could hang things on, but actually when you're welding long bits of steel, minimizing the amount of stuff that kind of clangs in the way is important. So I don't know, I just need to think about exactly how I want to lay that out. But I have done a bunch of welding things. Obviously I welded up a bunch of frame pieces for the Robot Cameraman, which we'll see in a second. I used the plasma cutter, which is over here, to cut like circles out of thick aluminium so that I didn't have to mill it all away. Just, it wasn't very neat, but it was way faster than me taking like a boring head and like slowly milling away what was effectively like an 80 mil diameter disc of 10 mil thick aluminium. Was way easier to, as I mentioned, I lasered up a template that just brought me within a safety margin, plasma cut out that circle. It was very rough edged, but then I could go in with a mill and just take that last little bit away. Worked fantastically as an approach. Yeah, that was kind of it really. Did a bit of welding with my dad as we made a metal grate for his barbecue, which was cool. Other than that, not a lot of changes down here. Again, feeling pretty stable. I still think, and I feel like I've said this like every year for like 3 years or something, I have the MIG welder, and I have the MIG welder and the TIG welder, which are down on the floor, and I've got some gas cylinders for them, and I now have the plasma cutter, and I kind of do want to make one cart that like stacks them all together in a convenient way. Just haven't prioritized that project. Is this the year? Is this the year? There's a lot of things on the plate, so maybe not, but that is definitely something I would like to do. If you have done something like that, again, share the design or link to whatever you looked at. I've sort of seen various ideas, but I don't really know if there are things that you think you would have done better or worse, like, you know, things you would change about one that you have made, that I should bear in mind, because it's very easy to invest a lot of time in making something like that and then be like, I really didn't need the gas bottles there or whatever. Anyway, that is a theory. Ooh, I should probably talk about another amazing new tool I'm reminded of, because I just saw this. This I've had for a while, but because I have the cordless DeWalt system, my wife this year for my birthday got me, one second, dun 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 dun, got me the DeWalt cordless router, which comes with the plunge base as well as the hand base. This thing is amazing. I've used it a little bit already. Of all the tools to go cordless with, this is definitely a cool one. I did a bunch of routing earlier in the year. As I mentioned, I made these giant Lazy Susans that needed to be rounded and whatever. And you just, like, the cable keeps getting caught on corners and all sorts. It's so annoying. This is amazing. I will hope to have more interesting projects to use this on. I'm realizing as I think about projects for this year that I do have a project in mind. I kind of want to make a coffee table. I've been thinking about that for years as well. That's one of those, like, it never quite gets prioritized sorts of situations. But it is on the list, and I will greatly benefit from having the cordless router for that. Okay, I've made you wait enough. Nothing else has really changed. Let's talk about the robot. So obviously, for those of you that follow me on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you will have seen this AdNausum as I have built bits of it. I did make a couple of videos of this year as I have built sections. It is currently, I'm going to say, nearly finished. I keep thinking it's nearly finished. Iteration 1 of it is nearly finished. Like, mechanically, it's all together, right? We have a rotational base. We have all the axes connected, all the motors connected. I have sensors on every motor, on every joint to read real-ish time back on the joint angles. I will probably do another proper video dedicated to this rather than go into the details in this video, but this has consumed a huge amount of time and frustration as I've gone down various dead ends and then retraced my steps. I did think I might have it ready to do some videoing for this. I probably could play with it, but, like, again, the second I start working on the last little bits that I think need to be done, this is going to take up the rest of the day. I just know it. So for now, this is all I'm going to talk about. It's been a cool project. It has kept me interested. It has sucked up a lot of the time available in the workshop. If you want to see more of this, let me know. I say I'll probably do another video maybe in the next couple of weeks with a bit of a deeper dive on some of the decisions that I made and then unmade and then tried again, and, like, the problems and the solutions, and try and go into that a bit more in depth. Those videos are easier to do when you are past all of the problems, or at least you have it working. I personally find them very difficult to do whilst I'm still in the quagmire of, like, things not quite working the way I want. There was a point a few weeks ago when I was very, very frustrated and, like, nothing was working. we're sort of coming back out the other side of that at the moment. It's sort of coming together. I'm sort of making things more robust. But there you go. So that, not quite ready for this video, but soon. All right, before I go, I should at least let you see it moving. We'll see how well that goes first. For now, though, I think we'll leave this year's State of the Workshop here. And yeah, let me know what you've been working on in your last year, and if you have any links to those projects. I'm always looking for interesting inspiration. And yeah, what have you got coming up for 2025? Anything that's really motivating you? Thanks for watching. See you next time.